here with Jonathan Steingard.
What's up?
Lead singer of Hawk Nelson now. Couple questions.
Sure.
Fans are wanting to know some
Sure,
things.
hit me.
What has it been like to go from guitar singing, background vocals to the lead vocals?
It's been wild. It's funny, like when we started the conversation of continuing as a band, we were talking to a couple of different people about maybe bringing in a singer, and the more we talked about it, the more it just felt natural to move on with me as the singer. At first, the first person to ask me was my mom.
Oh.
She was like, "Johnny, maybe you should just be the singer." I was like, I don't know if, I'm pretty used to being the guitar player, used to like being the support role guy.
Right.
I kind of like that. But then as soon as we started talking about, a new record and direction and all that stuff, it started to feel really right. And so I kind of feel like it's more about the songs and the band as a whole now than it is about like me and the singer and kind of whatever. So, and I think when you see the show, I think it feels that way.
Right. Okay.
So, but it's been a blast, and really, once we started writing songs, that's when it really became real for me. Like, okay, this is like, obviously, like, we're playing a bunch of old songs too, and they're really fun. But with the new songs, it feels like, well, there's no comparisons here. This is all new, and
It's all you.
So,
Yeah. As lead singer, what changes have you made to the direction of Hawk Nelson?
Well, I think that like we talked a lot at the beginning about like, well, what are the things that like we love about Hawk Nelson? What are the things that like hopefully you guys love about Hawk Nelson? And we talked about things like, just the fact that it's fun, that it's like got tons of energy, that like it's really interactive, and like which are like not so much musical elements, but just like personality,
Feeling,
and feel, and stuff like that. And so like I really don't think we're losing any of that stuff.
Right.
The new songs are really fun.
Okay, cool.
I think there's a little bit less punk influence and a little bit more just like, pop rock.
Okay.
But one of the things we talked about a ton is that, some of our older songs are more about the music and sort of the lyrics and that kind of stuff are maybe like not always the focal point, and I think in the new songs it's all about what you're singing and how you're singing it. And so like one of the things that I think is really fun about a lot of the new songs is that people that have never heard them before, you'll be singing it by the last chorus.
Okay.
Like it's really, really fun to sing along to. And we actually had a meeting with the guy that was at the show the other day, and he had never heard any of the new stuff before. And in the meeting, he was like singing choruses back to us and that kind of stuff. So,
Cool.
yeah, really fun.
How has this new role affected you personally?
Wow. It's been kind of a mixed bag for me. Like there's moments where, like quite honestly, like there's been some days where I'm like, man, I don't know if I can do this.
Right.
And then other days where I just feel like, man, this is really working, and like the show we did in Nashville really felt like it was working. So I think for me it's going to be a growing process of like growing into the role. I think there were so many things that Jay was great at, and I am totally different than Jay.
Yeah.
So I know for some people it's, I've heard people say on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, oh, it's not the same without Jay, and that's totally true.
Right.
It's not going to be the same.
Yeah.
And we love Jay, and we're excited for what God has in his future, and but we're excited about where Hawk Nelson is going.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
for me, there's a bit of like it's this bittersweet sort of like, yeah, things are definitely changing, but we're really excited. And so I think anyone that hears the new stuff and comes to the shows, I think you're gonna go home saying I love that.
Okay, sweet. What are some of the long-term goals you have for Hawk Nelson right now?
Question. That's a good question. Well, a lot of it has to do with like, I think there's been this question like, every year we all get a little bit older, and there's been this question like, what happens when Hawk Nelson grows up a little bit, And I think that was, part of the last couple records was trying to figure that out.
Right.
And so I think the record we're making right now makes so much sense with this kind of stuff, and so I think long term we want to be really intentional about what we're singing about and what we're talking about, and really like get a little more specific about what we're saying.
Okay.
And then also like we you know, we've danced around with the whole like, well, do we do club tours? Do we play churches? Do we do Christian festivals? We've always kind of played wherever, and I think we've kind of come to a point where we realize that like most people that listen to Hawk Nelson, most people know Jesus already, so we're gonna like really like make music for them.
Okay.
And that doesn't mean that you know, non-Christians hate it. I think lots of it is like really, really broad.
Right.
But we're trying to write about things that are true for everybody, you know? And so I think long-term goals, we want to really just really be a big part of Christian music, and I've been listening to Christian radio a lot recently, which I didn't used to do, and noticed that there's a lot of really great music, but not a ton of like really fun music. It's pretty serious a lot of the time, and so like that's an area that we want to grow into, being like, you know, being one of the bands that's like has really good things to say, but also is just like really fun and like cheerful. Yeah.
Cool. Will you still be working with Tooth and Nail and BBC?
We're kind of figuring that stuff out right now. We fulfilled our record deal with our last album, which means that right now we're independent. That Tooth and Nail has offered to keep working with us, and we're talking to a couple other labels as well. So we're kind of figuring that out as we speak. So that'll be figured out in the next couple months. But we're going ahead and recording next month. We start recording next month, and then the album will be released with some label. We don't know.
Okay. When would it depend on if you get a label or not? When that would come out? Or?
Yeah, it depends on that. Like different labels have different like release schedules, and depending on how they operate, like sometimes they'll want to fit you in with all their other artists, and to be able to launch a record properly. And so depending on who we work with and what that looks like, it'll depend whether it'll be out, you know, sooner or later. We would love to have it out later this year, and I think it'll be ready later this year. I think it may not actually hit stores until early next year, like you know, maybe January, February next year.
Okay.
Which feels like an eternity for us. But you'll hear stuff way before then. Like there'll be a single out. Hopefully we're gonna do some fun videos and stuff. So.
Okay. Last one. Do you have any prayer requests?
Yeah. Honestly, just that to keep my voice strong. I'm still kind of getting used to. I mean, I've sang tons in Hawk, but you know, if I ever lose my voice, it's not a big deal.
Right.
You know. But now, so I'm just trying to learn to take care of my voice really well, and that's something that I'm trying to figure out still. So prayers for that would be awesome. And then also just that you know, that our direction with where we're moving into is, you know, exactly what God wants, and that God would have His hand on that stuff. Okay. And it feels like so many of the things that have happened have been so God ordained already that like it kind of feels like this we're on this wild ride that, you know, we're not in control of really, and so part of that is kind of relieving, because it's like it's not all on my shoulders, you know, or not all on, you know, me and Dan and Justin or management or anything like that. Okay. So, yeah. Cool. Prayers for all that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome.